This is the session with the Additional Secretary, MNRE, and we have with us Mr. Aniruddha Kumar. He's an old friend of our organization. Mr. Aniruddha Kumar, as I mentioned, is Additional Secretary, MNRE, has been with MNRE now for about a year or so. He's an IRS officer, but has spent last 5 or 6 years in area of energy very intensively. Before he joined MNRE, he was in Ministry of Power, where he was both Joint Secretary Hydro and before that also Joint Secretary Thermal as well. So he's looked at the energy mix angle from all angles, I should say. But the reason, of course, we invited him today is because the Additional Secretary MNRE. And this will be a question and answer session. And there are some questions that we have sent to him, then some other questions that came up this morning. Welcome, Mr. Kumar. Wonderful to have you with us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for generous introduction, Mr. Brara. It's always a pleasure to participate in your conferences. Yeah, they are really good and thought-provoking.
It's always wonderful to be able to introduce somebody without looking at your bio notes. Sir, if we can start off, the first question that we'd like to ask is, what are the MNRE's key policy priority areas for solar sector right now?
For solar, definitely it is on the top of the agenda of MNRE. And we definitely want to promote solar. There is no dispute, no doubt about it, that solar is really on the top of the agenda, and the various steps taken by the government so far has actually borne fruit. And the solar capacity today is 40 gigawatt as compared to minuscule 5 gigawatt in 2014 or so. So it has grown many folds, and we continue to promote solar through various policy measures. And we have we gave commitment, nationally determined and NDC in Paris Climate Accord, that we will have 40% of total generation capacity from non-fossil fuel sources. So we have voluntarily upgraded those targets. Now Honorable PM has upgraded those targets, that instead of 40%, we will have 450 gigawatt of RE capacity, excluding large hydro and nuclear, by 2030. So I am happy to state that we will be far exceeding our NTC as against 40% target given for 2030. We have already achieved 38% today, and we will be exceeding 40% next year itself. And by 2030, Honorable PM has given us a target of 450 gigawatt, which will have approximately 300 gigawatt, 280 to 300 gigawatt of solar things as the things unfold in future. And hopefully we should be able to achieve that target given the potential we have. We have a potential of 700 gigawatt in the country. But there are certain challenges definitely, and we are trying to come over those challenges through various policy measures in consultation with the industry and other stakeholders. So, and commitment of top leadership is very important. So top leadership is committed to promote renewable energy, including solar in the country. So that is when we want to decarbonize our electricity generation as much as possible. So we are approaching it from all the fronts, like the promotion of renewable energy, replacement of fossil fuel, promotion of electric vehicles, and the energy, promoting energy efficiency. So we are attacking the carbon emission from all the fronts, then improving the efficiency of our thermal plants also. So government commitment of top leadership is very strong to reduce carbon emission and promote renewable energy, including solar energy.
Mr. Kumar, with the COVID first wave and second wave, how does this impact the solar target that was set for 2022?
It has definitely, I'll be very candid and frank with you, it has definitely affected our solar targets for 2022, which is 100 gigawatt. And it may be difficult to achieve 100 gigawatt, let me be very honest here with you, by 2022. And because COVID has really affected the addition this year has not been really up to the target in 2020-21. The addition was much less than the target. And the resurgence of COVID has further affected the progress of solar projects. And apart from that, there are other issues also. It's not only the COVID. So let me be frank enough with you that the target of 100 gigawatt may take some more time beyond 22 also. So, but we have taken all the measures. We have given a blanket extension of 5 months to ongoing solar projects, which has been extended to 6 months now recently. And we have kept the window open for further extensions also, depending upon the continuation of second wave of COVID. So we are open and we are very, very sympathetic to developers to the problem related to the COVID, so that they do not suffer financial loss or they do not become unviable because of the COVID.
And Mr. Kumar, therefore, what are we hoping for end of this fiscal year and in the next fiscal year, capacity wise?
Difficult to give you the number, but definitely we are expecting something around 15 to 20 gigawatt this year. That was the assessment before resurgence of COVID.
Second wave, right? You're right.
So before the second wave of COVID. So, but I really can't say that how long this second wave of COVID will continue and how will it impact the capacity addition this year. So our target was to have another 20 gigawatt in this year up to say March 22 and another 10-15 gigawatt by next year. So, but this besides that, Kusum is there. Kusum is picking up well. So we hope some capacity addition in Kusum and rooftop also. This figure I was telling was it was about the grid connected rooftop, grid connected solar, the large scale solar. But rooftop and Kusum will be in addition to this. So there we also hope to achieve another 3-4 gigawatt, 5 gigawatt through Kusum and rooftop.
Okay. Mr. Kumar, what progress has been made towards improving the overall solar supply chain and promoting local equipment manufacturing? I mean, a number of programs, of course, but what has been the response from the industry and what do you expect in this area?
So we have taken large number of steps to promote. You're talking about the generation or the domestic manufacturing capacity?
Manufacturing capacity, sir. Yeah.
Domestic manufacturing capacity, yes. I think it's known to all that we have many schemes which have mandatory domestic content requirement, like CPSU scheme, like Kusum also. It has a mandatory domestic content requirement, and then rooftop scheme in which Government of India gives 30% grant. In CPSU scheme, there is a provision of grant, and then there are.
What has been the response from the industry? Are you seeing?
Yes, the response from the industry is tremendous, particularly the recent announcements by Government of India about the imposition of basic custom duty with effect from April 22, and the advanced list of approved list of manufacturers and models. So there is a tremendous response from the investors, and we have received large number of application. And we have set up a project development cell also in the ministry exclusively to facilitate the setting up of fresh solar manufacturing capacities in India. The present capacity is around, the rough estimate is around 15,000 megawatt. And now with the clear clarity on the future roadmap that we will have basic custom duty of 40% with effect from 22. We will have this ALMM mechanism in place. Then we have several schemes of domestic content manufacturing. So there is a feeling of assurance in the investors, and there is a tremendous response, and we are receiving feelers from the industry that soon we will have a large capacity in India also.
Okay. Mr. Kumar,
and then PLI scheme, I forgot to mention that PLI scheme has been sanctioned. So in budget it was announced. So it has already been appraised by the Expenditure Finance Committee favorably. Now it is before the cabinet, and it has been approved by the cabinet also. And we have issued the guidelines for PLI scheme. So that will be another incentive for the industry to set up the domestic manufacturing capacity in India.
Okay.
So we hope that we will have sufficient capacity in India in next 3-4 years.
Okay. Mr. Kumar, what about the transmission issues? Are there any progress in the last 6 months or so?
Transmission, we have two-way approach. One is the interstate, for which we have GEC-1 scheme. GEC-1 scheme is already in progress under construction, where we give 40% grant to the states to construct transmission network to facilitate evacuation of RE power, which is in progress, and we hope to complete the scheme by, say, most of the projects will be complete by March 22, and maybe some of the projects may continue beyond March 22 by June 22. And then beyond that, in addition to that, we have 66.5 gigawatt capacity plan for interstate transmission system, which is being set up under by the PGCIL as well as under the bidding method. So that scheme is also there, and it is progressing well, I will say, but because of the application for connectivity has not been received from many developers, so some of the components are yet to be bid out. But we have already identified the probable locations and made a plan to add 66.5 interstate transmission network to facilitate evacuation of RE capacity. And in addition to that, we are looking at this evacuation of power from Leh also, which was announced from Honorable PM. So we have planned a 10 gigawatt interstate transmission line from Leh to the main part of India. For that, DPR has already been prepared and it is under consideration under Ministry of Power. So we are looking at the transmission also side by side along with the addition in capacity. And for future capacities also, we will be planning for the transmission capacity. So as on date, there is no issue of transmission like that.
Okay. And
we are looking at the second phase of TEC also, right. That is interstate transmission. The Ministry of Finance has given the in principle approval for that. That will also help in evacuation of around 25-30,000 megawatt of capacity interstate basis. And government proposes to give 33% grant to the states for construction of the interstate intra-state transmission capacity for creation of the for evacuation of fresh RE capacity. So the concept note has been approved by Department of Expenditure, and the draft EFC memo has been circulated to the various stakeholders ministries. And we are expecting their comment soon, and once we receive their comment, we will approach Ministry of Finance to appraise it, and then we will approach Cabinet to sanction it. And KFW is also providing loan to that NGEC2 scheme. It will be a concessional loan, and they are willing to fund it to the extent of 40% to 60%, depending upon the state's willingness and to take the loan from KFW Germany. Yeah.
Mr. Kumar, in this respect, because of the fact that you have COVID second wave and maybe another one, there's a fear of that. Is there any thought being given to extension of waiver of ISTS charges beyond June 2023?
Yeah, that is certainly on the table. It is under discussion in consultation with Ministry of Power. So, but at the moment, I cannot give any specific views on this. Yes, that is under consideration. It is on the table. It is under discussion.
And related to again transmission matter, although this great Indian bastard, the Supreme Court judgment.
Yeah, that's certainly an issue. We had a good discussion with Ministry of Environment Forest today itself on that issue, and there are some ambiguities in that judgment of the Supreme Court, which at least we are not able to interpret it very clearly. So we are contemplating that should we approach the court to clarify those issues, like what do we mean by high voltage transmission? And so they have included not only the critical areas, but also the potential areas also. So there is some doubts in that order. So we had a good discussion with Environment and Forest, and we are contemplating to approach the court to clarify their issues, because they have not heard the solar power developers associations and all that. So it is under consideration. It is under deliberation, because it has really adversely affected huge capacity in Rajasthan and Gujarat.
Okay. In an earlier discussion today, when we had a discussion with developers, one of the developers wanted me to just mention to you that the phase 3 and phase 4 of the transmission scheme, they felt that it hasn't been awarded yet, even though it has been approved. So
Yes, that is certainly issue. Phase 3, phase 4 of ISTS has not been awarded. It is primarily because we have not received connectivity application. So unless we receive the connectivity application from the developers, so how can we award? Many of them have been bid out, but unless we get the connectivity applications, we can't award the bids. We are ready to award the bids, but we are just waiting the connectivity applications from the developer. We need to have, because nobody will undertake construction of transmission line unless there is a visibility of developer applying for connectivity. So that is certainly an issue.
Okay, Mr. Kumar, if I can move to the area of energy storage, what can we expect in that area next couple of years?
Energy storage technology is very dynamic. So one thing is that we are working on National Hydrogen Mission. Honorable PM announced it in the RE Invest, and Ministry of the Honorable Finance Minister also announced it in the budget speech that we will be soon launching Hydrogen Mission also. So the mission document is almost ready. It has been circulated, and we have almost completed the consultation. So we propose to launch this hydrogen mission in next 3-4 months and seek approval of the cabinet. And we are also looking at some sort of mandates for not for power generation, but the industrial use of hydrogen.
Right.
Many industries use hydrogen like in steel or refineries or the fertilizers. So we are contemplating to mandate some sort of obligation for them that instead of using the gray ammonia or gray hydrogen, let them use a part of that the green hydrogen or green ammonia, like the RPUs for the solar and wind. So that is also that idea is also on the table. It is being discussed with Ministry of Fertilizer, Steel. And they have responded favorably to this idea. So it is being developed. It's cost economics and all that is being developed right now for that.
Okay. Mr. Kumar, do you expect a change in Discoms' appetite for absorption of new solar power? What is your sense of that?
That's the issue, certainly an issue, because the reason is for last 2 years, unfortunately, the demand of energy has not grown. It is static. The demand for 2021 was the same which was in there in 1920. Right. So that has one reason that states have already sufficient contracted capacity in terms of long-term PPA, so that has reduced the appetite at least at the present from the state to sign the fresh PPAs. And another thing is the continuous expectation of falling tariff. So I say there is no real reluctance on the part of the states. It is the expectation of falling tariff that they say that, okay, instead of doing PPA now, if we do it 6 months later or a year later, we will get even lower tariff. So they are postponing signing PPAs. So, but I hope that soon states will realize that the tariff of solar and wind has become very competitive, and we have proposed the amendments in the Electricity Act also, where we propose to make it compulsory for the states to adhere to the RPO trajectory, and if they fail to adhere to the RPO trajectory, we have proposed penalties upon them. So we hope that that will, once that electricity amendments are through, so that will prompt the states to sign PPA, and that is the issue. But biggest issue at the moment is this: the no increase in the demand for almost last 2 years. There is no growth in the total electricity demand. It is at the same level which was there at around 2 years ago. But soon the demand will improve, hopefully, and the states will go for the fresh PPAs.
Mr. Kumar, my next question is about the long-term vision for the solar power, and especially if you can also take advantage of your own. I know you've done intensive studies when you were at MOP about energy mix requirements and energy requirements, etc. So in your view, when you're looking at 2030, what do you see as solar capacity required? What do you see as total energy capacity required? And what do you see as storage?
So this target of 450 gigawatt declared by Honorable PM is based upon that study only.
Okay, right.
It was because every system has a capacity to absorb solar power. Otherwise, the grid will become unstable beyond a point, because we not only have to balance the diurnal variation of intermittency of renewable power, we have to look at the seasonal variation of demand and the generation also, because our demand is also not constant throughout the year. So if we put up more renewable capacity, then there will be huge curtailment during the low demand period. So we have to keep all the factors in mind, like what is the solar generation profile throughout the year, what is the demand profile throughout the year. Based upon that, that optimal energy mix was worked out by CEA, which contemplated 450 gigawatt of RE power. And it also projected that the storage will be around 34 gigawatt hour for that. The storage required will be 34 gigawatt hour. It could be battery storage, it could be some other form of storage also, because hydrogen storage also, depending upon the technology at that point of time. So certainly it will require some storage, and we will find some solution. Hopefully, the kind of research is being done in the world about the storage. We will find some solution that we will have competitive and economically viable storage solutions by that time.
How much of that would be solar power out of the 450 renewable?
Out of 450 renewable, solar is expected to be around 280 to 90 gigawatt. This is the present estimate, but it may vary little bit. Maybe if we are not able to add that much of wind, then maybe solar power targets will be increased. Or it all depends.
Mr. Kumar, what are the new policy initiatives that you and your ministry is working on? I understand right now there's a great deal of preoccupation, of course, with the COVID issues. But what in the next 200 months, what are you looking at?
Many initiatives. Once I told you this hydrogen mission,
of course,
and then mandate for green hydrogen or green ammonia that we are looking at, that will also help us. Then Kusum, you may call it a new initiative or a old initiative, but we are banking a lot upon Kusum to creation of huge fresh capacity and demand for solar content. And we have already announced, we have recently sanctioned PLI scheme also, so that will support the domestic manufacturing in the country, along with the imposition of basic custom duty and the ALMM mechanism. And we have set up a dispute resolution committee, I think, which is very unique and novel initiative of this ministry, because many of the projects are delayed because of the situation beyond the control of developer, and those are beyond the scope of contract also. So there used to be a dispute between the SECI and the developers. So we have set up a dispute resolution committee, which is whose members are eminent expert, and they look at the issues beyond the provisions of contract, and they feel that the extension, the request for extension by the developer is genuine, and it was for the reasons beyond his control, we grant further extension to the developers, and this mechanism is working pretty well. And then we are also looking at the possibility of liberalizing the open access for renewable power. Recently, you must be aware that Maharashtra Regulatory Commission has come out with the order that the many industrial consumer or progressive consumer wants to decrease their fossil fuel based power consumption, and they want to consume the green power. So Maharashtra has come out with a tariff order that consumers who wants to have 100% RE power, they can do so by paying some little extra 66 paisa tariff to the Discom, and they will be supplied green power. So we are also looking at liberalizing the open access rules for industrial consumers to buy green power directly. That is also on the table, and I think hopefully will come out soon with the regulation, and then Next thing is promotion of rooftop. Rooftop, we have proposed to increase the minimum limit of net metering for rooftop installation, including residential as well as commercial, to 500 kilowatts. So that proposal is under consideration, and Ministry of Power has also agreed for that, and soon we will come out with a sort of a regulation that or a advisory or kind of a mandate to the states that they should increase the net metering for solar rooftop up to 500 kilowatts, subject to satisfaction of conditions like the consumer should have a minimum sanction load of 500 kilowatt and all that. So that will also, I think, encourage rooftop installation in the country, because distributed solar has its own advantage. It helps in reducing the transmission cost, the distribution cost, the reduction in AT&C losses. It is much easier to balance. So that will also help. So these are the present policy measures on the table.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Kumar. And good luck as well.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And
please stay safe, sir.
We need all your good wishes to meet the strict targets set by the top leadership of the country before us. But hopefully we will be able to reach those targets. Thank you so much, Mr. Prara. It's always a pleasure to participate in your conferences.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.